Okay, let's get it. Black girl magic dripping. Yeah, she's on a mission. Keeping our culture lifted. Now you can watch and listen. Tammi Mac. Tammi Mac. Oh, what show was that? It's the Tammi Mac Show on Fox Soul.
Tammi Mac, ay, Tammi Mac, yeah. Ooh, that Tammi Mac. Tammi Mac, ay, so you know it's Tammi Mac, ay, Tammi Mac.
Thank you, Hailey. Welcome to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. I am Tammi Mac. Imagine walking down the hall of your middle school or high school when all of a sudden you get pushed from behind, causing you to fall to the floor. And as you look up to see who the hell pushed me, you hear laughter. You look around and see that the laughter is directed at you. As you look back toward the source of the push, you realize you don't even know the person. You have no idea what you did to them or why they're harassing you. Well, maybe you don't have to imagine that because it's your reality. 1 out of every 5 students reports being bullied at some point, and it often changes their lives or causes them to take their own life. The business of being Black tonight is surviving bullying. Please welcome concert pianist and bullying survivor, Nerva Altino. Hi, Nerva.
How are you, Tammi?
Beautiful. The CEO of Indie Go Inspire and the mother of bullying survivors. We mothers always seem to come to the rescue for everything. Patrice DeLisser. Hi, Patrice.
Hey, Tammi, it's good to be here. And absolutely, I'm always on the forefront of this situation.
An award-winning life coach and the author of Survival. I think I said that right, but if not, you will correct me. Mode, Purvis Taylor III. Hi, Purvis.
Hi, it's survival mode.
Survival, of course, you want to thrive.
Yes.
I'm already off to a bad start, but that's all right. It gets better. It gets better. So the question becomes each and every night, why? Why should Black people care about bullying?
Oh my gosh. Black people should care because so many of our kids, as you stated, the alarming suicide rates. And so many of us don't know who we are. So many of us don't know that we have power. So many of us don't know the power of our voice. And so it's so important for us to talk about bullying because I think it's so pervasive within our communities.
Yeah. Patrice.
I think we need to go back a little further than just our current society. We come from a people who have been bullied into slavery.
Oh, that's good. That's so good. No one ever brings that up when we talk about bullying because bullying kind of runs the gamut of ethnicities and cultures. And so within our own culture, you are speaking, my sister. We have been bullied since we arrived in this nation. Please go on. I hated to stop you, but I just had to give you a thumbs up on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Because those who have been affected by bullying tend to be the ones that become the bully. And when we find that we are in a society where we have not come to terms with our own abuse, we lash out and really become something that is passed down through generations. So we don't know how to deal with the hurt and the pain of our past experiences. And then we transfer them on to the next person. And it becomes a cycle, and to the point where you have kids now who don't know how to express their anger. They don't know how to express their pain. And so they take it out on the one who's the most innocent. But unfortunately, the one who's the most innocent becomes bruised by it. And because they don't become the bully, it internalizes and becomes something very, very serious. Because now, if I can't bully, then it must be something wrong with me. And then when there's something wrong with me, then it becomes something wrong with, well, maybe I shouldn't be here, which absolutely spins into a whole nother cycle.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I've had people on the show say that slavery is not a Black people's problem. You know, the history of slavery in America doesn't belong to Black people. It belongs to America. And so when you say that, we come from a place where bullying was our beginning, we too then turn around and become bullied through that pain, through that anger. And so then when you think of it in those terms, you think, oh, wow, that can affect not only Black people, but that affects everybody, the pain of slavery. So yeah, thank you for bringing that point. Nerva, let's get at it. Why should Black folks care about bullying?
Well, Black people should definitely care about bullying because it's something that affects our communities. Myself, I was bullied as a child, and it was the result of, from other kids who themselves were suffering from emotional hurt, emotional pain. So, when you go through bullying, it affects our community, it affects our emotional frame of mind, and we don't function as much as well as we should in society. So it's something that needs to be dealt with overall as a society, not just the Black community or the white community or Asian community, everybody's, but as Patrice said, the bullying, so we started as a people in this country as being bullied. So it's something that we still, suffering from with regards to, what we went through back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. That trauma is something real, and people
Right.
take it real lightly, but that trauma, and it lasts for generations.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't think people realize that. Nobody
Right.
ever really gets over it. They pass it on.
Right.
And
Well-
that's where we need to stop it. That's why we need to talk about it. And that's
Yeah.
why we need to let the world know that it exists and it's a problem and it needs to be solved. Since I'm on you, Nerva, I know that you were bullied. You just told us.
Yeah.
What did you do in the case? First of all, I want to hear of an instance. What does
Mhm.
bullying mean? What does that even mean? I've always wondered, because I've never been a bully,
Mhm.
and I've never technically been bullied, I don't think. And like when I was in high school, I was on a basketball team, and they used to put me in the trash can, but I thought it was fun. So I don't know that I was being bullied. And sometimes they would stuff me in the locker because, I was
If it
all
was
80 pounds.
Friends, that's fun. If they weren't your friends, I don't know if that was fun, but okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure because, I don't take life too seriously, and I'm just like, dang, they got me today. And then maybe they stop because they realize she's not taking this like we want her to. But at any rate, I do wonder, what is the difference? Or let me ask first, what exactly is bullying, Nerva?
Well, bullying for me was being teased. I came from Haiti. When I came here, I was 10 years old, and I didn't look or dress like all the other kids my age in class, so I was called names constantly. I was beaten on, got beat up by classmates and schoolmates. This went on until junior high school, and
So it started when? When did it start?
started in the fourth grade.
In the fourth grade. And
Yeah,
so
when
when you were in school, were you in school with white kids, Black kids, a diverse kind of classroom?
It wasn't a bad school at all. It was St. Albans, Queens. It was black kids all around. So they just teased me a lot because I didn't have the cool clothes, back in the day when they had shell top Adidas and Puma sneakers and Nike and so forth.
That sounds like the 80s.
It was the 80s. And I was where I came from Haiti, not knowing, of such a thing where you'd have to be stylish, if you will, to go to school. My parents weren't focused on that. So they would send me to school with plaid shirts, corduroy pants, and tube socks with shoes and things like that. So I became a target. I was a magnet for bullying. And I was constantly teased. And like I said, I was beaten up as well. So by the time I got
Do
to
you
junior
remember
high,
the first time it happened or no?
I recall the very first time it happened. But I recall my very first day of class. Number one, I didn't speak English. Like I said, I came from Haiti. I didn't speak a word of English.
Right.
So that was, the first factor for me. So I remember being presented to the class by my teacher when she was introducing me to the class. And all the kids were smirking, and she, tried to assign me a seating next to somebody, and they didn't want me to sit next to them. And so she had to, put me in the back of the class with some other kids who were more friendly towards me. But, that was my first experience of having been rejected.
And so do you remember the experience of it finally getting to you? The experience of you saying no more?
Yes. That happened when I was 13 years old. I was in the 8th grade. I was in junior high school, and I went to one of the worst junior high schools in Queens in the 80s. And a bully who'd been targeting me, who'd been picking on me since elementary school, he went to the same junior high school as well. He came to me and told me that he wanted to beat me up again, as he did in elementary school. I wanted to beat this guy up, but he had a lot of guys that were his friends that would have jumped me. So I backed off. But I was angry with myself. But less than a week later, he came back to pick on me again. I grabbed him by his throat and told him I would kill him if he ever came and messed with me again. From that day on, he never messed with me again. And it was a wake-up call for me that I realized that I needed to stand up for myself, because I was beginning to have thoughts of suicide. And it was taking its toll on me. One of the things that helped me cope with the bullying was being able to practice the piano at night. But so I took it out, that rage that I was experiencing towards my music. I put all that energy into my music. But after I finally stood up to that guy, I made up my mind that I was done with being bullied. And so by the time I got to high school, I turned to the streets. So I became kind of a Robin Hood bully, if you will. So
you were the bully that stopped the bullies.
Yes. So I had friends in high school. I ran the streets, and I was the type of guy, if I saw another kid getting bullied, I would immediately jump in and beat up the aggressor.
So did something change in your appearance from
Yes.
4th grade to high school, where I would immediately back off if I saw you?
Yes.
Okay.
So it started at junior high school when I got my first piano gig, where I began to make a little money. You know, I was 14 years old and making, I guess, a couple of $100s a week, if you will. So I changed my appearance. I bought more expensive clothing. I wanted to look like hip hop stars, the rap stars of my day.
We all did.
LL Cool J's. I wanted to look like them. So instead of wearing shell top Adidas and Puma sneakers, I went out and bought a pair of ballet shoes. And I had the Nike sweatsuits and so forth and so on. So I wanted to look like the rappers of my day. So that changed my appearance. And I began to lift weights.
When you say you was a part of the streets, then you talk about ballet shoes. Now I'm thinking you was a drug dealer, but that ain't the show, right? That ain't this show. So we're not going to even go there with you. We're not going to go there with you. We're going to take a quick break, though, and come right back on the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul.
All right.
Welcome back to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Let me dive into the chat room, because the chat room is lit, as the kids say today. It's lit. So let me dive into it tonight. The business of being Black is bullying, or surviving bullying. Therese says Black mothers and women rule. Patrice, that's for you.
Absolutely. All day, every day. We are the ride or die for our kids.
Yeah.
Kim Possible says, I went to a predominantly white school and was bullied, and when I complained, I was the villain. Very ridiculous. My parents tried to help, but the school was racist. Joy says, this is an interesting topic. Never really thought about it after high school. Really, Joy? It's all people are talking about right now is bullying. I mean, we just came off of a whole president who bullied globally on a global basis here. Incog says, your formative years lay the foundation for how you navigate life. And if you've been bullied, it will have a profound effect on your psyche and how you deal with people. Hurt people. We all know that. And then we have a soulmate who says that's a lot of money for a teenager in the 80s. I think someone agrees with me about those ballets, Nerva. But hey, when you're a pianist, I guess we all need to know that road. You need to come back for a whole nother show, brother. Purvis, I want to talk about what our soulmate Incog talked about. He says these are formative years. You say you too were bullied in the 4th grade, starting in the 4th grade. What is it about the 4th grade? Is that where kids start to discover that they're different from one another and start to understand the things that their parents are saying at home under their breaths or in private?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I just remember someone calling me the F word and just making fun of me. And I remember being like scared to go to school. Because it would start out as one, and then it would be like a group, a cluster of them, calling me the F word and saying all types of things about me. And my thing was, a little bit different. Like I was in the gifted and talented program. And so back then I was like the only guy in the classroom. I was the only boy in the gifted and talented program. So my friends were girls. And so therefore, you know, that's who I hung around because that's who I was in class with. And, you know, I guess looking back at it now, you know, people, you can kind of take on the mannerisms of the people that you hang around. And I guess for them, they just onslaught.
So it wasn't the girls in the AP classes that bullied you. It was your friends who were male outside of your classes.
Yeah. And it was some girls too. They joined in on the fun at some point, and it was just this one who lived in my neighborhood. He did apologize to me recently on Facebook, so I do want to say that.
Wow.
So, yeah. He apologized to me, but he used to terrorize me. I was definitely afraid of him until one day, like Nerva, I had a girlfriend and he was trying to clown me in front of her, and I just went ham. I just went ham on him. And I was just like, and it's not in my nature because I'm so nonviolent, but I went crazy on him. And that was the end of my bullying.
Yeah.
And what grade was that? Was that in the 4th grade or was that further down?
No, that was like, I was a junior in high school.
Okay, in high school.
Yeah. It was from that time all the way up. I used to be scared to go outside. Like I was afraid of this dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I don't want to leave this hanging in the balance here because I know a lot of people want to know just as I do. So you say one of your bullies who tortured you apologized on Facebook. So the first thing I want to know is, how did he become your Facebook friend?
Well, at that time, I kind of, you know, I let it go at that point because I had already become who I become, and I had processed and I've forgiven and I've let it go, and you know, God has blessed me and elevated me. So at that point, I don't have no time to hold grudges against anybody. And you know, soon as I accepted the friend request, I got this message. He was like, "Yo, man, I just want to apologize, blah blah blah." And I was like, "It's cool," because I don't live in that part of, I don't live in Texas no more. I live in New York. I'm doing my thing. So like, what's the point of me holding on to that? So,
and how did the apology make you feel?
It allows me to know that people know that they done you wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people try to act like they don't.
Yeah.
But deep down, they know they've done you wrong. And so that shows me that he's been carrying that with him for all those years. Because I'm 40 now. You know what I mean? And that was like, you know, years ago.
So Purvis, did you remember when you friended him, did you remember him to be that person?
Yes, immediately.
Wow.
Immediately. I knew exactly who that was. And I was just like, wow, I really have grown, because only would have been petty.
That's a beautiful thing to grow, but it's also a beautiful thing that he growed.
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing about that exchange, is that he grew as well.
Yeah. Therese says parents who don't have effective parenting skills will often use aggression towards their kids as a substitute that teaches their children to be bullies. Oh, and now we have to move to you, Patrice. That's a great concept. It would seem that way. If you're at home and you're parenting in a bullying sort of way, then wouldn't your child, wouldn't that be a part of your child's behavior to bully in his or her spaces, Patrice?
Actually, I'm going to disagree on that. And everybody has their parenting style. As I said to you before, I grew up in a home where there was a lot of arguing back and forth, and sometimes it got heated and almost to the point of I wasn't sure it was going to be a full physical altercation. So even when I was younger, I don't know where it was, it kind of clicked into my spirit that I did not want to have a house like that. So I was not going to use foul language. I was not going to have an environment where my kids didn't feel like they were safe and felt valued. So by the time I got married and my husband and I started having children later in our marriage, I knew I wanted an environment that was kind, respectful, and also teaching them the value of other people. Because when you don't value other people, then what you're doing is, if you're teaching them to be bullies, you're thinking, okay, I'm defending myself, but at the same time, you're not allowing them to express to me, what's really bothering you? What's really angering you? And I'm not saying, I'm this Claire Huxtable that probably did lay hands on kids. Well, then again, no, maybe I did. That's not on the show. Anyway, but I was not about to teach my children to devalue somebody else. We have to find another way to handle that situation. So when it came time to send my kids to school, our youngest daughter, we have 4 children, 3 girls and a boy, and our youngest daughter, who started getting verbally bullied, wasn't always necessarily physical as much as it was verbal. And she really, because she was just such a kind and she has such a giving spirit, these type of children really internalize negativity, and they've internalized to the point where they feel like something's wrong with them. And so they find ways to fit in. And the more they try to fit in or try to be kind and, let me share my lunch, or maybe ask them if they want to come out and hang out with my parents, that, we can go bowl, the more she kept getting pushed away. And it seemed to be sort of weakness. And this wasn't in a public school setting. This was in a Christian environment.
Wow.
Where Christ is being exemplified and the parents are sending their children to a Christian school. She was getting bullied to the point where it was affecting her psychologically. It really pressed itself home about towards the end of middle school, going towards high school. By the time she reached 9th grade, it was so bad that she actually attempted suicide. And I found her in a bed. She had overdosed.
Wow.
I don't even know what to say to that. My mouth is completely dropped.
Yeah.
So, when you find your daughter, and she'd left a note, and we pick her up, and I picked her up because my husband was at work at the time. When I walked in, I remember I was about to go to the store, and it was one of those days when, I don't know if you have kids and you want to go to the store, you want to make a quick run. You always take that one child who's always asking, can I stop at McDonald's? Can we do this, whatever? And it's one of those days, it was just a long day. I was tired. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make a quick run to the store and I'll come right back. But something in my spirit, I don't know, I know it was God. Because before I left the house, all of a sudden, that quick run I wanted to make turned into, and this is no exaggeration, I must have been there like another 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And I kept looking at my keys like, okay, I want to go. And something kept saying, take Eden with you. And my daughter's name is Eden. And take Eden with you. And I kept thinking, no, that's the one child you don't want to go, because you'll end up, when you go spending $5 for groceries, you spend $25 in Target, that kind of thing. And, but it would not let me go. And so I went to the stairs, finally said, okay, in my mind, I'm talking to myself thinking, all right, let me go ahead and ask her, if she wants to go. So I went to the bottom of the steps, and like a mom, called the top of the steps. I called her name and didn't hear her. And I was like, I know she hears me. She usually hears me the first time. And I said, Eden, I called her name again. And I didn't hear anything. And then I don't know what it, once again, it's like that uneasy feeling. And so when I went to literally, and this once again is no exaggeration, I went to put my foot on the first step, the stairwell got black. Everything just turned black. Mm. And so as I'm going up the stairs, by the time I hit the first landing, Psalm 23 came into mind. And so when I got to the top of her, to the step, on the second floor, and I saw her door closed, I went to reach for a handle, and for some reason I couldn't do it. And I said, Eden, and I didn't get an answer. Mm-hmm. So I felt uneasy, but I put my hand on the door, and it's not like this was just such a strange day. And so I went, put my hand on the door, and I opened the door, and I saw that because of the position of her bed in her room, I could see she was in the bed, and she was lying in the bed. And I said, Eden, didn't you hear me? And I didn't hear anything. And so I walked in the room, and the covers were over her face, and I pulled the covers back, and I just saw a single tear drop out of her eye, and then her hand went limp. And I said, what's wrong? And I looked over, and the pill bottle, which was over-the-counter medication, everybody can get it, I'm not going to say what it is. Mm-hmm. And she had overdosed on it, and when her hand flopped, there was a note.
I can't imagine just you even having to relive that story by telling it, but I know that you have helped so many people. And this is a part of why you tell the story, so that you can encourage other parents and get the word out that this exists and that these kids are committing suicide because of it. It is a big deal, isn't it, Patrice?
It's a tremendous deal. And so I scooped her out of the bed. I picked up this ninth grader in my arms like she was a baby. And I literally at the top of my lungs, and I said, Satan, you can't have her. You can't have her. And from that day on, it has been on ever since. She has spent, she's had a few times where we've had to hospitalize her in facilities to help her with the depression of that. She has attempted again, and we've been helping her through that process. And I'm happy to say at this juncture, we're still going through the process, but she's getting better. And her dad and I and her family, we're supporting her all the way. But I will say that bullying is not the option, because your child that you're teaching to be a bully could be that one child that could set another child in a motion that they will not be able to turn back from and will end up committing suicide. And my question as a parent, do you want that on your conscience?
Yeah, we're going to let that sit with you and take a quick break and come right back on the Tammi Mack Late Show on Fox Soul. Welcome back to the Tammi Mack Late Show on Fox Soul, where tonight the business of being Black is bullying. Yes, please welcome. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, who am I welcoming tonight? Oops. Please welcome concert pianist and bullying survivor, Nerva Altino. Hi, Nerva. The CEO of Indigo Inspire and the mother of bullying survivors, Patrice DeLisser, an award-winning life coach and the author of Surthrival Mode, Purvis Taylor III. We left with Patrice sharing a very personal story with us that has taken her on a journey that's not so personal in terms of how she is fighting for bullying in a very public way. And Patrice, I said during the break, but I want to say it out loud because I believe that Purvis interrupted and answered the question in a way that I think needs to be answered. But I asked Patrice, how does a mother who has had to deal with their daughter almost or trying to commit suicide because of bullying have the capacity of soul and emotions and heart to want to help other people when you are still actually dealing with your own daughter? I don't understand how you have it. And Purvis, you said what?
I was like, that's the power. Every time she helps someone, she triumphs over the bullying. She triumphs over the attack. And I think that's the powerful thing. She's found her power in helping others. And that's the beautiful thing. So it will not win.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you believe you found your power, Patrice?
Oh, absolutely. And which is one of the reasons why, even with the initiative that I have through my company, Indigo Inspire, it is a brand that really helps in terms of developing young people, young artists, and giving them an opportunity to be able to, showcase their talent in a way. But we've committed, even through our apparel line, that every portions of those proceeds of everything that we sell goes towards TEED initiatives, to helping them to learn what it is to value people and to give back. And so it allows us to be able to send children around the world on mission trips. They get to see other cultures, get out of their environment. And this is not something that I'm experimenting on. This is actually something that we did with our daughter, Eden. And so she had an opportunity even through the midst of that. And it took a little soul searching, because we also wanted to make sure she was in a stable place where she could go, and we didn't have to worry about the possibility of like suicidal ideations. We had that conversation. We made sure therapy-wise that she was in a good place. And so when she would go, initially she didn't want to go. And my husband and I actually was the first one to bring that up as a subject. And I was a little apprehensive, but after really investigating the organization, and they were vetted and they've been doing this for years, it's not about troubled teens as much as it is just teen cooperation. It's an excellent program. And they do it once a year. It's called the Maranatha Ultimate Workout.
And do you think it's beneficial for what type of kids? Kids who are suffering from bullying, kids who are maybe suffer with suicidal thoughts, or all of the above?
I would say I wouldn't necessarily call it, it's not developed from a clinical standpoint as much as it is about camaraderie.
Ah, yeah.
And, a child who feels like she doesn't have any friends to now be embraced in an environment where, kids are praying with you, they're singing with you, you're helping to feed, you're helping to clothe, you're helping in clinics, you're helping in construction sites, and you get to see little kids of other cultures that, it really opens up the, just a worldview that doesn't necessarily become isolated when you have a child that has been bullied, because everything becomes so isolated with a child that's bullied.
I have to let all of our viewers know that Eden is still here with us, and this situation happened when she was 13. She's now 19.
Yes, she's not just turned 19.
And has graduated from high school and is doing well, you would say.
Yeah, we're doing well. We still get our counseling. She still has her moments, but we've come alongside her from the time this has happened, and we are going to make sure she gets the path of success. I'm hoping one day to get her involved in this company, because I want to pass it on to her as a perpetual foundation to continue.
And as Purvis said, that would probably lie in her power as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Going to our soulmates here, they're weighing in. Johnny Maxwell says, if you hang out by yourself, you're a target for bullying. I used to get bullied by 90% of my class in school. I never got depressed. I just got angry and told staff they didn't do anything, so I had to fight. That is interesting, because everyone who's chimed in has said that nobody has done anything about it. Rihanna is one of the most successful singers in the world. In addition to being on the cover of countless magazines for her beauty and fashion sense, she says she was bullied throughout her entire school life. What type of message does this send when someone like that can come from a background of bullying, Nerva?
Well, it tells you that you can overcome. For me, I struggled a lot as a teen, but because I carried a tip on my shoulder. I became an angry teenager. So like I said, I made up my mind that I wouldn't be bullied anymore, and I wouldn't allow anybody to bully anyone that I knew. So I used to fight a lot, got in trouble a lot in high school. And the thing about it is, as strange this may seem, it was a coping mechanism for me, because all the anger and the rage that I was feeling from what I had experienced in the previous years, I was not able to let loose on fighting in the streets all the time. So throughout my teens, I engaged a lot in fighting, getting suspended from school, to the point where by the time I was a senior in high school, a bully was picking on a friend of mine who was somewhat of a small guy. I got in the guy's face. Anyway, long story short, I went to look for him. He pulled out a gun and tried to shoot me. He missed. So my friends and I now were looking for him. I understood that he moved out of New York. We never saw him again. But I engaged in cavalier activities. I got a thrill from fighting, and that stemmed from the bullying that I'd experienced. The turning point for me came when I was in my early 20s. I was still in college, where I got caught up in a traffic dispute with some guys in Massachusetts. I'll just call it Massachusetts in college.
Road rage.
Yes, road rage incident. I nearly hit the guy. He jumped in front of my car. Thankfully, I did not hit him, but I, took off, went to a gas station to get gas. Next thing you know, my cousin and I were surrounded. Anyway, they decided to jump us.
Surrounded by who?
By the guy, the same guy. We were being followed. I didn't know we're being followed. So I came out the car to pump gas, and my cousin and I were surrounded by a group of guys. Anyway, they had guns. They had 2x4s and different weapons. My cousin and I had our bare hands. There were probably about 15 to 20 of them. And one of them struck me on the side of my head with a 2x4. I fell down and the fighting began. The one with the gun now tried to shoot me with the gun, but his friends were in his path. He couldn't take the shot because his friends were in his path. He kept telling them, move out of the way, so I could shoot him. Me seeing this, I had taken cover. I became desperate for survival. So I just began swinging as wildly, as hard as I could. And somehow the guy with the 2x4 dropped the 2x4. I picked up the 2x4 and began striking every one of them. I don't know where the gun went, but I didn't see it anymore. Anyway, they began to flee. As they started running, there was a guy on a bicycle. The guy with the 2x4 who had struck me was on a bicycle. I went after him. And I struck him the same way he had struck me. He fell to the ground, body spasm. And the cops were coming. What did they see? They saw me and my cousin beating up that guy. So he fell in a coma. I got arrested, and I caught an attempted murder case, assault case. And if he had died, I would have faced a murder trial. But thankfully, witnesses came forward and said that my cousin and me were defending ourselves. The guy recovered and we beat the case. But that was a turning point for me because prior to that, I carried so much anger. I was engaging in fighting all the time. I would go to a party, I would fight. It wasn't unusual for me to go to a mall and somehow before I leave that mall, I'll end up in a fist fight. So all that anger, the thing is, I didn't start fights, but any opportunity that I had to fight, I engaged in it and welcomed it. So that was the effect of bullying for me. But that turning point, once I realized what it would cost me, I changed my life around. I used to go to nightclubs all the time. I stopped hanging out at clubs. I stopped going out unless I needed to. And I changed my mindset because prior to that, I thought about violence all the time. My favorite movies were Scarface, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society. So my mindset was constant violence because that rage, that anger that I carried from years of having been bullied in elementary school and parts of junior high school stayed with me.
That's what our soulmate Johnny Maxwell is saying. He's saying that he didn't get depressed, he got angry and he started to fight.
Yes.
And so I guess that is exactly what you say it is. It's a coping mechanism. We're going to talk about more coping mechanisms when it comes to bullying. Welcome back to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul, where tonight the business of being Black is bullying. Joy Swanson, we're going to the chat room, y'all. We're going to the chat room. Joy Swanson says, it's a wonderful topic. I was very ignorant about it. So I'm glad Tammi brought it up. I'm not on social media and I don't socialize much. So I literally never thought much about it. Well, interesting you talk about social media, Joy, because Kazik Rochelle says, what happens when the authority figures take the side of the bully? And then another one of our soulmates says, now all of the bullying is being done cyberly. All of this cyberbullying is happening now. Now we have cyberbullying, which I never understood, to be honest. But you want to talk about that, Purvis? Well, first of all, what I want you to talk about is, before we get into cyberbullying here, I'd like for you to talk about depression, because one of our soulmates said that he wasn't depressed. He took it out in anger, and he took it out by fighting, much like Nerva did. And you say,
depression in Black men and Black boys looks different. And so the typical symptoms that we think of depression don't always apply. So even you being angry and fighting all the time, that is a form of depression.
Yeah.
Because you're not being your authentic self.
Yeah.
So it's a form of depression.
Mm-hmm. There's a video that went viral of a 9-year-old Australian boy named Caden Bales, who says he wanted to kill himself after being bullied. Let's take a look at this. Caden received an outpouring of support from many celebrities, Hugh Jackman included. Is the social media age making it easier for those who are experiencing bullying? Purvis?
Yeah, I think it's an outlet. I think, I think social media can be a blessing and it can be a curse. Um, I, I'll share this, like, being on social media, I've commented on the Shade Room, and I remember I innocently saw that they were doing something to help the Black community in Oakland, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. I step away from my phone, I come back, those people attacked me. They called me all types of names, and I literally was just triggered. I didn't know what to do, so I immediately deleted the comment. And I was like, oh my God, this is what people deal with every day. Like, and I don't even know these people, so I shouldn't have been so emotionally invested. But the fact that they were attacking me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So, like, again, it could be a beautiful place, but it also can be a very hellish place. And I think that, the beautiful thing is that it does create platforms like this and discussions which are needed, right, to talk about. But then on the flip side, it's like it creates these keyboard bullies, I like to call them.
Yeah. Keyboard tough guys.
Yeah, these keyboard
bullies.
guys, keyboard bullies. And it was just like, I literally was just like, I deleted the comment. I was like, oh my God, like I just been cyberbullied. You know what I mean? And so, like, it was crazy.
Yeah. And yeah, I always wonder how people have time to sit and just go back and forth with one another. People, they have no idea who those people are, or where they live, how they live, and both of y'all just got time to go back and forth and back and forth.
Well, sometimes you have time. Some days you do have time. Like, some days I do have time, but for the most part, I don't.
Well, I agree, Purvis. I agree with you. Some days if you're on my page, typically, and you comment on my page, there are days that I have time. I also have a bold block button as well.
Block ministry.
Look, I don't even know you. I am not going to miss you. So if you come on my page, I don't even have to see you. I will block you so fast after I said what I had to say.
We had a president who used 4 years of his power to bully for 4 years. Yeah. So my question is, I think we talked about this in the break, when does the bullying stop? Because at some point it just keeps going. And it's a sense of self-empowerment. The more you feed and fuel this thing of being over somebody, even as a child, and you've conquered your victim, and it gives you almost like a bloodthirsty emotional high to continue to bully people. And so when you see that, then you start seeing bullying that goes from childhood, from adolescence to high school to college to the workplace. You've got that boss who's just always on your neck. Mm-hmm. And then you've got police officers on your neck. So my question is, when does the bullying stop? It stops when people realize the worth and the value of a soul.
Absolutely.
And you understand the worth and teach the value of another soul. The scripture says, the Lord knew us before we were formed in our mother's womb. Did he think he only knew me? He knew you as well. Yeah. And until we start changing the tide and valuing and teaching the value of a soul, particularly as a culture, and we're going back to the whole slavery thing, why are we continuing to perpetuate abuse and bullying within our own culture? Yeah. We are still continuing something. We're saying we're holding each other up. But actually, the more we allow this to continue, even within our own society, we are doing exactly what the master did. Mm-hmm. We are oppressing our own people and teaching our kids to do the same.
So I do want to answer that question, or I want to, dive into that question, Patrice. When does the bullying stop? So I want to ask you, Purvis, at what point, you said it started in the 4th grade. Mm-hmm. At what point, and what do you think anyone could have done, or what is something that could have happened that would have stopped it?
Well, the first moment that I heard those words, I immediately questioned who I was. And so at that moment, the damage was already done. And so when they kept doing it, I kept losing pieces of who I was. And so even at the end of it, I still had to gather the pieces of who I was up until 40, right? So even though I've made peace and I've grown and God has done some wonderful things in my life, I still have to do those self-check-ins, because sometimes I can't show up as that bullied young boy, and I have to be very mindful of that. So I think at that moment, it's always about reinforcing one's value, building one's identity, making sure that they know who they are, making sure they know whose they are, and always reinforcing that. We learn through inculcation. So constantly affirming, constantly having those, those sessions of empowerment, self-empowerment, telling yourself that you're beautiful, telling yourself that you're wonderful, right? And that's not to build arrogance, that's to build love for self and power. So I think that's the thing that needs to be done more so than anything.
So you think, because obviously when you're in the 4th grade, you don't know to tell yourself, I love you, I'm good, I'm not this, I'm not that, do you?
You can start though, but you can teach that. That's I teach 4th grade.
But it has to, that's my point.
Yeah,
it has to be taught. Someone has to teach that to you in the 4th grade. So so then I'm saying your solution would be, after the person called you the F word for the very first time, someone should have come behind them and said, you are not this person. You're good, you're beautiful, you're God's gift in every way. Someone should have encouraged you and affirmed who you really were in a positive way immediately. Do you believe that would have would have made a difference?
I think so. I think that would have changed the environment of my mind. Because I didn't have that. All I had was their thoughts. You know what I mean? Especially in the 4th grade. So I didn't have an interjecting thought.
Absolutely. So. Nerva, what do you think could have been done to stop the bullying? You too were bullied first in the 4th grade. What could have stopped it after the first time, do you think?
What I wish I had done was stand up for myself way sooner, because the kids saw that I was afraid of them. I was intimidated by them. And I actually felt that they were better than I was. So my low self-esteem took a hit. So I wish I had stood up for myself a lot sooner.
It's interesting because that's the same thing Patrice and Purvis are saying. They're saying self-value.
Yes.
You didn't value yourself. So there's something about being bullied that the bully sees that you don't value yourself, and they take that and they use it against you. So it becomes important, Patrice, this is where we need to bring you in, right? It becomes important, like you said, for parents to encourage their children and to constantly affirm their children. You said you were raised in a household that was arguing, was very a toxic environment, but you created an environment in your own home that was not that environment, right?
Absolutely. And like I said, bullying didn't always come in a physical form. It comes in verbal forms. As Purvis was talking about, when he's being called a derogatory name, when you're a child whose emotions are still very pliable and shapeable by words of affirmation, it takes that one negative word that comes in. It takes longer to heal from a negative word than it does from a positive affirmation. So by the time you are trying to figure that out, and particularly if you're going back to the same place where the word is being said over and over again, it's creating a deep groove in the brain pathways that lead to negativity.
We're going to take a quick break and come right back on the Tammi Mack Late Show on Fox Soul. Thank you so much for being here tonight, where the business of being Black has been bullying. And I'm so happy that we have had the guest we have tonight. And I appreciate you all for sharing your stories and being so transparent. It's not easy to go on national television and tell your story. So I'm honored that you decided to share them on the Tammi Mack Late Show. Purvis, you have a book.
Yes.
Survival. Only the strong can survive. Survival mode. Where can we get it?
You can get that book on purvistaylor.com. It is a book that is written for men of color that teaches them how to process and navigate through their emotions and mental health.
Patrice, tell us about your Power Up virtual music conference.
Yes, our Power Up virtual music conference will be taking place June 16th through 18th. And we have an incredible array of speakers, everyone from the president of the Dove Awards, representatives from the Stellar Awards, and BDS national radio stations will be there. VP of Radio 1, Kobe Tyner, will be one of our speakers as well, Jackie Patillo. And we're excited about it. And we have an amazing ending concert that will feature none other than Lecrae.
Thank you so much. Ooh, that's big. Lecrae is not a small feat, sister. Nerva, More Than a Gift. Where can we get it? Wrap us up. Take us home. Where can we get More Than a Gift?
Get More Than a Gift at Amazon. It talks about my life from Haiti, or I have lived in dire poverty. Takes you through my life's journey all the way to Carnegie Hall in my recent battle with COVID, where I lost my father, and I came with from a near-death experience with COVID as well. So it started from my very early years up until recently. So it's at Amazon. Check it out. More Than a Gift. How classical piano became the soundtrack to the violent life that I escaped.
I have to hear some of your music. I have to. I hope it's on YouTube, because I'm going to Google as soon as we get
on
off.
YouTube. We're on iTunes. Yeah, check us out, please.
Nerva, Patrice, and Purvis, thank you so much for being on the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. And until tomorrow, everybody, it's a blessing to be in your box. Bye, y'all.
Bye.